Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of CS Cyber. I'm Chad.
And I'm Sean.
And today we're continuing the podcast with another episode of NIST 800-171. Today we're talking about, I believe, your favorite.
Yep, incident response.
And incident response is really focused on preparing, detecting, responding, and recovering from security incidents. So it's what are you going to do when bad things happen, right?
Yep.
So you want to kick it off? I mean, you love this.
Right. So, I've been just on too many of those where we show up and there is no plan. They don't know what to do. And it's unfortunate, right? I mean, because it's traumatic all on its own, right? So it's got its own set of problems. But when you respond and there's nothing really to work with, that just makes it more difficult. So I like this section because it talks about disaster scenarios and policies and procedures, all those types of things. It's one of the more boring parts of the whole thing, but this is probably one of the most critical things you could possibly do.
Yeah, and I think, at least from what I've seen out in the field, I think people are really challenged with this because they try to think of it as the entirety of everything that could happen.
Oh, right.
And let me try to plan for every possible scenario, right?
Sure.
And I think, what I tell clients is, that's impossible, first of all. I mean, you're never going to prepare for every possible thing that could happen. But having a framework of what you are going to do when anything happens is really, really the key starting point, right? And I mean, how many times have you responded to something where just having a document where just give me the high level of who should we call and, what are your key stakeholders, things like that.
No, absolutely. It could have just been a couple pages. I mean, we're not talking War and Peace here. I mean, it would have been some really basic stuff would have been really helpful. Don't get too in the weeds on this.
Yeah, so just some key requirements, right? So this control family has 3 sub-controls. Just some key requirements is incident response policy and planning. You want an incident handling procedure, incident reporting, and that's really, I think, the key.
Those are the top 3, under key requirements. Yeah.
So I think with this, just keep it simple, right? I think every organization is going to have a different capacity to respond to an incident. They may have, they may really just have heavy IT staff that can handle it. They may have security folks and staff that can handle it.
Yeah.
But the majority of the time of what I see is you maybe have 1 to 5 IT guys that are doing everything and they're not prepared for something of that magnitude, right? Whether you're a big organization or a small organization, you're compromised and you can't work. So,
yeah. And I also wanted to just say that incident response planning has a lot to do with who you are and what you do. There's a lot of, what your risk exposure is. You said that every one of these is different with every client because they all have different tools. Because part of the plan is going to be how are you going to leverage a tool to do something? Well, you might have all different tools. So these are very customized things.
Right. And like we said, it's got to be workable for you. I mean, it does you no good to have this 80-page IRP with a lot of good words, and you can't execute any bullet point in there.
So some practical examples of incident response that I've seen, definitely SIM tools, so security incident event management. So using something like Splunk or SentinelOne or like we use Secure Onyx to go through those logs, right? So you're sending all of that content to a SIM and you're looking for events. Automated workflows like SOARs, security orchestration, automation, and response. Those are more higher end tools that isn't necessarily something that you would implement as a you're growing
as
into
a
this
recovery tool,
type of thing. And then incident response drills. That sounds more terrifying than it is. Because it could be just something as simple as you go get pizza for everybody for lunch and you sit down for 30 minutes and you're like, hey, let's just talk through a drill real quick. We get ransomware and all of our servers are encrypted. What do we do? It's just a conversation. So, don't look at some of the stuff that it's real intimidating. Some of it's just easy conversation.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, and we've done that here. We do that here. I mean, we've played backdoors and breaches.
Yep.
Almost weekly there for a while, I felt like.
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
Just kind of discussing what we would do and what's a possible scenario. So,
yep. So what about developing an IRP? So how do you get started doing that?
Yeah, so I think with an IRP, right, like we talked about, it's got to be workable for you. It can't be 80 pages of something you have no idea how to execute. So just outline clear roles, responsibilities, and escalation procedures.
People's phone numbers.
Define communication protocols, right? I think a lot of people think that email is going to work, or we have Teams, or I have Sean's cell phone number in my phone. Well, turns out I don't, and I can't. You know what I mean? So
yeah, somebody asked me for somebody's cell phone the other day, and I'm like, I don't know. And we Teams each other a lot and have those types of conversations. I don't know. Some of us realized we didn't have each other's cell phones.
Yeah. So, I mean, have a call tree in place, and then utilize forensic stuff, right? So I forget, what is Binalize?
Well, we use, so Binalize is a pre-forensics tool. We've also used Cyber Triage to help with triage, obviously.
Yeah.
And then our primary forensic tool, entry tool, is our EDR tool, the endpoint detection and response. That's how we get a lot of the baseline stuff.
Right. So a lot of times in an incident, we'll go in and we'll deploy EDR to get that baseline, but
yes, but the incident's already happened right at that point. So it's hard to that's a really good point, because it's hard to deploy some of this stuff after it's already happened.
Right.
Yeah.
But tools like Binalize that are there before can provide this.
That's correct. Yeah, pre-forensics. Correct.
All right. So just a couple key policies I wanted to talk about. Incident response plan, incident reporting procedure, and then forensic analysis guidelines. That may be something that you have in-house. That may be something that your security team or IR team brings to the table. I would assume mostly your forensic or IR team is going to bring that to the table.
Yes.
All right. Common challenges, right? So let's talk about these a little bit. So slow detection and response, right? How many times have we seen that, people are in the network for long before they're discovered? Right?
Yeah, we call that dwell time.
Yeah.
And on average, that was like 90 days plus, which is awful. That's like somebody sitting in your living room for 90 days and you don't notice it. Sorry.
Just chilling out on your couch.
Yeah. Dude's just there sitting, watching you eat popcorn, and that's the analogy.
Yeah. Lack of coordination. So when the event does happen, nobody knows what to do, right? So they're all
that hair on fire.
That's right. Everyone's just kind of looking at each other like, well, what do we do now?
Right.
So just having that, even if it's just a high level plan, like, okay, we're going to call these people, we're going to get our MSP involved, and everybody's different, right? Like I said, some people have IT in-house resources, some people it's an MSP.
Yep.
I would say if you do have an MSP, an event like this is something that you want to talk to your MSP about.
Yeah, definitely.
And are they going to help you with that? Is there some contractual obligation that they help you with that? Or
do they have the experience?
Do they? Yeah, exactly. Like, what are you going to do? So,
absolutely.
So if you've done nothing, you definitely want to start doing something. And, like we said, just kind of keep it simple at first. Just kind of start thinking through, what are you going to do if you can't work, you can't log into your computer? What would be your first steps? Especially if you're an executive, you're a business leader, really start thinking through those, because your business could be on the line.
Absolutely.
So, got anything else for today's episode?
I do. I just have three things. So I would say, number one, if this whole thing fails and you don't do it and the crap hits the fan, call us. We have received complete phone calls in the middle of the night from people we do not know, and we get them through it. It's a process. The second thing is look at what your insurance process is. So if you've got cyber insurance, maybe call your agent ahead of time and go, hey, let's walk through what happens. What phone number do I call? And then the third thing is I would just recommend having a relationship with federal law enforcement. If you come under a cyber attack, you cannot call your local police department. That's not going to function. It's not that type of crime. It's a federal crime. And you need to contact either the FBI or the U.S. Secret Service. We can help with that too.
Yeah. I just want to hop back to your insurance point, right? I think if you have cyber insurance, you should be talking to your agent to understand specifically what is in that policy, right?
Oh, yeah.
What is going to be covered
before
in the event. Really, really you should. So if you have cyber insurance, take a look at that policy, start asking your agent some questions.
Agreed.
And then maybe just run them through like a scenario, like what would happen here? And make sure you understand that.
I agree.
A lot of people don't understand that, and they're surprised. I guess.
Yeah, they find out real quick. We could do a whole episode on insurance, so maybe add that to the list here at the end. Maybe we could do a whole talk. I can give you all kinds of stories about what happened there.
Right. All right. Well, that's all we got for today.
All right. We'll see you on the next episode.
See ya.